Hello. It's me, Andrine, Jewish American Priestess. I'm going to attempt to do a reading outdoors today. I have no idea how loud this is going to be. So I'm just giving it a go, and we'll see how it turns out. I'll take you on a little tour of my garden. It's been the Shemitah year, so I have left things lie fallow, but now I have cleaned some things up. So here is some of my beds with the leftover squash blossoms. There's a ceramic chicken, we have a lingam here, and then over here we have another one of my decorative gourds that is still on the vine. Another ceramic chicken. This is my amazing fig tree. Remember last week or so, all the figs were just tiny and green, and now they're so ripe and so amazing. I've been coming out and picking at least a dozen or so a day, so I am just delighted that this last bit of summer, this last heat of the summer has really ripened up the figs for us. So I'm going to pause and try to find a place to set up here, and we'll do a reading for this upcoming week of the last days of awe and the Day of Atonement. Alright, this is a garden bed that lay fallow this year, and now it is freshly weeded, and it has the dirt broken up slightly in it, and I am going to do a scatter reading right into the dirt. And I know that may seem irreverent to some, but in fact, the earth is holy, and all things come from the earth in some way or another. So here's my bowl of stone Hebrunes, and just going to toss them down. Wow. Okay, we got a lot. Let me pull out the ones that are upside down. And that one is the blank one again. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a bit, and hopefully we can see well enough. Maybe a little tricky. I will lift each of the stones up so you can see them as well. I tried to pull the camera closer rather than zooming, but maybe I'll try to zoom as well. I know we lose a little clarity when we zoom, but that may be necessary. Okay. All right. Wow. What a spread here. There are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and in my set there are 23 because I put in the Ein Sof, the blank stone, as well. But I know we keep coming up with the same letters over and over again, which I find fascinating for this season. And I'll read you what we have here today. So I'm going to go with the central one, which I see as the Dalet. And here it is. It looks like this. It is the number 4, the 4th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it is what represents a doorway or a gate. And I think that's just really appropriate for right now. We are in the days of Oz. The gates are open. The gates are open. They say in our tradition that the veil is thin between the worlds, and things have been opened so that our prayers can be heard, so that righteousness can reach up into the heavens, and so that we can also hear and have our teshuvah, our return, accepted and acceptable. Dalet is also about humbleness and humility. It is the first letter of the name David, which is the King David, who came from very humble beginnings. And although he was a problematic king, being a human being, also sometimes was able to remain humble in the face of the divine. The Dalet represents the door to spirit. It is the number 4, so it is about the 4 directions: the earth, the fire, the water, and the air. And it has to do with the name of God, because there are 4 letters in the name of God: the Yud, the He, the Vav, and the He. It has sovereignty over the planet Mars and the day Monday in the calendar, and it is the binary of wisdom and foolishness. And that's where we are right now. What are we doing as we make teshuvah? Are we being wise or foolish right now? Are we able to walk through that doorway right now while the gates are open? And that's our central issue. And I'll put that back here. And what I'm seeing slightly below here is the letter Kuf. And Kuf is the letter that represents the Kadosh, holiness. So that which is designated for service to the divine. And that's what we say in, services every Shabbat: Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy. And it is the last letter of the word tzaddik. So it represents somebody who's righteous in their behavior. And it is also the number 100. 100 is the number of years old that Abraham was when Yitzhak was born. So it has something to do with that, the 10 times 10, the 10 tests of Abraham, the ultimate manifestation of the number 10, which is the ultimate manifestation of the number 1. So it's like 1 on steroids here. So it's about oneness, it's about holiness, it's about finding righteousness in yourself right now. And it's a little bit lower than the Dalet in this reading. So maybe, again, there's some concern. If something is a little lower, it may be about fear. So maybe there's some concern that you haven't discovered holiness, that you haven't found your own righteousness yet as we move through these 10 days of awe. And that's valid. A lot of people are having those concerns right now as we look very honestly at ourselves. And a little lower even, and to the left, maybe in the past, we have this blank stone, and this blank stone represents the Ein Sof, that without end, the infinite, the primordial material, the raw materials out of which we're all born, the earth, if you will, but pre-earth, what earth is made of, what air is made of, what water is made of, that divine God stuff. And it is also here, off to the side, a little low, and we can rest assured that we are made of that divine God stuff. It's right there. It's right there near us, even if it's something we can't see right now, because we're focused maybe too much on the doorway. And up and a little to the left, we have the letter Vav. And I'm going to read these upright. So the letter Vav is a straight and tall, standing person with a slightly bowed head. So again, it has to do with humility. And it is a connection letter. It is the letter that connects the heavens to the earth. It represents the number 6. It is the 6th letter of the alphabet, and number 6 is the number of days of creation before Shabbat was given. So it is a completion or almost completion number, and it is above. So what we know is we've just completed the last year. We are almost complete in the days of awe. So we have this connection. We have this connection with the divine, with that gate being opened. We have this connection with ourselves. It is the letter within the divine name that connects the two He's, He meaning presence. So it's presence connecting to presence. And we have that ability right now to connect with the divine. It's also a tent peg or a hook. It is the hardware that holds together the veil around the Holy of Holies. And so it is a connecting piece. It literally means and in Hebrew. It has to do with the gallbladder in the body, so maybe having a lot of gall, and it also has to do with hearing. In the Sefer Yetzirah, each letter is connected to a foundation element, and it is the foundation of hearing. So maybe right now we need to be hearing, or maybe we need to be listening a little harder, and we'll be able to hear. We just heard the shofar recently, so that's up for you. And that's something we can rely on right now, as we are maybe concerned about not having the righteousness we wish we had. We can know that we're still connected. We know that we're still connected to the divine, that we can still hear and be heard by the divine right now in these days of awe, when we are trying to make teshuvah, and we're trying to make repentance as we go into Yom Kippur. And even a little higher than that, and a little bit to the left, is the ayin. And ayin represents the eye. So it's about sight and seeing. It's about seeing things clearly, but it's also being seen. So being seen, being watched over by the divine. And ayin, interestingly, is the number 70. 70 being the ultimate manifestation of completion. So it being a little bit further to the left, maybe that's the completion of the last year that we're talking about, that we have just finished the Shemitah. We have just finished the year 5782, and we have come into this new place. Hopefully that we have vision toward the future, that we have vision for this coming Yom Kippur, with the gates being open, that we are being watched over by the divine. And that's something, again, we can count on, as it is above the line. This is what's going to help us here, knowing that we are watched over, that we've made it through the previous year, and that ideally we'll make it through this one as well. So we have both seeing and hearing here at the top, right as we come into those gates. And then a little bit to the right, what's coming up next is the Lamed. And Lamed is the first letter of the word Lev. It is that letter which reaches up for connection into the divine. And it is about learning and teaching, and about heart. It's about having heart, and maybe having a broken heart, having our hearts broken open, so that we're ready to make teshuvah. As we cross through these gates, we have the heart that is open here, and it was upside down, and I flipped it over, but maybe that's representative of the broken heart, or the inner heart that we need to cultivate in order to make it through these gates, these days right now. It is the letter that rules over the month of Tishrei, which is where we are right now in the world, and it has to do with action in the world. So if you have things you need to do in order to get right with the world, if you have tzedakah to give, or if you have charity to give, if you have prayers to give, if you have apologies to give, this is the time to make that action. That we are in the process of opening our hearts, learning and teaching what we need to learn, and what we need to teach right now as we move through the gates into the new year, into the Day of Atonement coming up on Wednesday this week. And what we have in the final spot, I thought that was a different letter, and then when I turn it over, I noticed it's Tet. I thought it was Pei, but if it were like this, it might be Pei, but it isn't. It's Tet. Tet is a container. It's like a vessel of some sort of cup or a basket, and it represents, it's the number 9, and it represents a womb, or some kind of gestation, as in 9 months of gestation in the human body. It is also the letter that begins the word Tov, which means good. And so it's good, the goodness within a thing. We're gestating something, and the goodness is within it. In the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Torah, the first use of the word Tov is light. It is said that the divine saw the light and said, "It is good." And so lightness is up right now. This idea of light, the changing of the light right now, the light within us. Again, this was upside down, so it can speak to inner light and what's contained in us, that goodness that's contained in us. And as it is the number 9, it also speaks to the shofar blasts. There are sets of 9 that happen. There are 9 staccato blasts in the Truah. There are 9 beats that are held in the Tekiah, and they come in sets of 9. So it's about waking up. It's about finding the goodness in that, those sets of 9, in that renewal and rebirth, being born again as a new person with good potential. It represents the month of Av, which passed a couple of months ago, and the right kidney in the body, if that means anything to you. And it is, again, that vessel, that womb, that period of gestation perhaps that's coming up. Even in the next couple of days, let's say, we've got Yom Kippur on Wednesday. So maybe there's a little bit more gestation you need to do with your broken heart. I'm going to go back over and just reconnect each of these pieces. If we can see them, we have in the central area the Dalet, which represents a gate, that the gates are open right now, this doorway. And what's just below that, maybe a little bit of concern about not having enough holiness, not having enough kadosh in order to make it through the gates. And over here, down low in the left, we have the Ein Sof, the blank stone, which represents the primordial materials that exist there down deep. Even if we are unaware of them in any given moment, they are still there, hovering just out of sight. And up and to the left of the Dalet, we have the Vav. And when we find ourselves being concerned about not having appropriate holiness, or feeling like maybe we're just a blob of primordial ooze, we can know that we're connected, that we have been heard, that we are being heard, that the divine is hearing us, and that we have the potential for hearing the divine as well. And also sight. The Ayin represents sight, and so we have this knowledge that we are being watched over by divinity, and that will give us the ability to see our way clear, see our way through, to find our way in through that gate at Yom Kippur. And as we move forward through the gates right now, these 10 days of awe, maybe we are turning toward our heart, our inner heart, the brokenness of our heart, that will help us make teshuvah, to help us find our way, so that we can make it into, this again, Lev is about, Lamed is about the Tishrei, it was about this month that we're in, and having heart in this month. And that will bring us to the Tet, which is about gestation. It's about those shofar blasts that come to us on Yom Kippur. We've already heard some all the way through the month of Elul and on Rosh Hashanah, but on Yom Kippur, the final blast, where those gates close, potentially, and we are written in the book for good life, for Tov. And that is our reading outdoors in the dirt, for this, remembering that we are nothing but earth, and that we have to renew every year, every day, maybe every breath. As we come into Teshuvah, as we come into Yom Kippur, I hope that we are all sealed for a good life, for good works, for a clean and pure heart. And I will see you on the other side. Shana Tova, Tekatevut, Vatikatemu.